So Media Matters put together a great compilation of the right-wing flip-out over Justice Democrats and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Check it out.
Why is it that in this early part of this century, socialism suddenly makes a reappearance? Why?
This is getting scary. If you pay attention, it will scare you.
Socialists becoming the mainstream of the left.
The Democratic Party is embracing socialist values.
They talk about things that everybody wants.
Let's see, single-payer, universal health care, universal jobs.
They're saying, I want free Medicare. I want a guaranteed salary.
Government-subsidized housing for everybody.
Fully funded public universities and schools.
Abolish ICE, and, of course, impeach President Trump.
What happened in Venezuela? They call that democratic socialism.
The average Venezuelan has lost 24 pounds because they're starving to death.
In Venezuela, human beings are taking dog medicine.
Their ultimate end is either North Korea or Venezuela.
Just look at Venezuela.
What country is this, Venezuela?
They're going to be the left of Venezuela.
Venezuela?
Venezuela.
Venezuela. Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
She's talking more about Scandinavia than Venezuela.
Would socialism require that we give everything back?
Let's hang out at the coffee shop and talk about socialism.
I'm a democratic socialist. Shut up, will ya?
Maybe go easy on the socialism.
When you think of the atrocities that have been committed in the name of socialism, in the name of communism, it's just staggering.
Single-payer healthcare system is very frightening to me indeed.
The left of the Democratic Party is describing communism, not socialism. Communism.
Indeed.
All this talk about Russian influence going on, but if you really think about it, the real takeover of the Marxists, the socialists, the old Soviet Union is on the Democrat Party.
So if Democrats want to go out and say, let's have socialism.
And they really mean communism.
And actually claiming they are the new normal for your Democratic Party. Okay.
Free college. You look at socialized medicine, single payer. You look at income, universal income.
And everything's free. You're going to get everything free. Lollipop's going to fall from the sky.
Why do you think people want socialism?
I'll explain it very easily. It's like the mob. You want something, you take it. Who pays for it? You pay for it. Or the other guy pays for it. What's the difference? We're going to take it, keep it, take it, give it to somebody who deserves it. That's what we're going to do.
If you are still a socialist after 25, you've got no head. You know who said that, I'm sure.
I think Churchill said that,
Yes,
didn't
sir. Yes, sir. Correct.
That was a hilarious ending. For those of you who were just listening and you couldn't see it, it said on the screen, Churchill never said that. Okay, so let's break this down. First of all, I like how they're just admitting, like, this is scary. What? It's scary? They're laying out the most basic stuff. I mean, universal health care, universal education, including higher education, a jobs bill, universal basic income. That's basically Social Security, but for everybody. I'm not saying you can't nitpick and have disagreements here and there with the platform of whoever it may be, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Kanyela Ng or just Justice Democrats platform in general. It's fine to have like little disagreements here and there, but the idea that it's scary and that like, oh, we've never seen anything like this before, well, that's just objectively not true. I mean, again, if you look at Scandinavia, they've implemented, probably 90%, if not more, of what Justice Democrats is calling for. So, like, for universal health care, for example, literally every other developed country on Earth has one version or another of a single-payer healthcare system. I mean, some of them it's public money funding public institutions. Some of them it's public money funding private institutions. Some of them have no supplemental private healthcare. Some of them have supplemental private healthcare. So there's different ways to build a system. There's no doubt about that. But there's no question that every other developed country has a universal healthcare system, a single-payer healthcare system. So when they do their pearl clutching and they ask, oh, this is scary. Okay, but then how do you explain that those countries kick our ass when it comes to their healthcare systems? I mean, we pay double what other developed countries pay, and we have 30 million people who aren't covered. Never mind the fact that there's 38,000 to 45,000 people that die every year because they don't have access to basic health care. That's a Harvard study. So they love to harp away on, the problems in universal healthcare systems. You might have to wait a little for elective procedures. The horror. Well, what about the waiting lines here, which are riddled with 38,000 to 45,000 dead bodies? There is no rebuttal to that. So then, of course, we have Venezuela. This has now become like a meme because there is every single time we're trying to have a reasonable conversation between, people who believe in one version or another of social democracy and the people who are supposed to be on the right, it's inevitable. It's like a law of nature that they invoke Venezuela. So, in other words, they're not listening to you and they're strawmanning. I mean, that's the only way to explain that. Something Venezuela. It's bad and you guys want that even though you don't say you want that and you say you want more like Scandinavia, but Venezuela. And then again, let's be clear, they're lying by omission when they don't say that Venezuela is under economic siege. Now, I don't need to defend Venezuela because that's not the system that I'm trying to build, and that's certainly not the system Bernie Sanders is trying to build. But let's at least get all the facts out there and be clear that, yes, they're under tremendous sanctions from the West, and so that at least accounts for some of what's going on there. Try to pretend like the most powerful country on earth waging economic warfare against you is not responsible for at least some of the situation there. It's just massively disingenuous. And again, we're not talking about that place either way. You are. And then they go from Venezuela, they graduate to, or North Korea. North Korea? What the fuck? I mean, there we're just talking about an extreme authoritarian dictatorship. So just anything bad they want to throw on you if you believe in anything left of center. So that's why this is another trick they do. They didn't do it in this clip, but we've heard it before. People have fucking written articles about it, which is embarrassing because it shows how dumb they are, where they talk about National Socialism. The Nazis were actually left-wing because it's in the name, National Socialist. So obviously they're socialists. So it's the same thing, right? Isn't Denmark today the same as Nazi Germany back then? Isn't that what it is? No. Fucking North Korea is called the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea. By this same logic that the right-wingers are using, would they contend that North Korea is indeed a democratic republic? No, they wouldn't. They'd be like, they call themselves that, but they're not that. Exactly. It's the same thing with fucking National Socialism. You have a system built on eradicating Jews, eugenics, fantasy Aryan race isn't even a real thing according to scientists, being superior, blonde hair, blue eyes, and obviously they're the ones who should be leading the world and leading everything, so let's eradicate people who are not like them. And by the way, isn't this system exactly like giving people universal health care and universal college and a living wage? No, you fucking jackasses! And then, of course, they go from Venezuela, North Korea, they invoke communism. You can't have a discussion with these people without them immediately strawmanning you and smearing you. And then finally we get it's like they're like the mob, which is hilarious because Donald Trump who's a guy that Mark Levin who said that he supports Donald Trump endlessly. Donald Trump has literal mob ties. So it's hilarious. He's like, the left wants a system that's like the mob. It's like the mafia. That's the problem with them. Anyway, I love Donald Trump who has mob ties. And our government here works with legalized bribery. I mean, that's what it is. You have billionaires and corporations and lobbyists. They give tremendous amounts of money to politicians. Then politicians get elected and do their bidding. So they ignore the will of the American people and do the bidding of their donors. That seems kind of mob-like to me. So when finally a group comes along and they argue for everything that the people want according to the opinion polls, that's Bernie Sanders, that's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that's Justice Democrats, what do? Can have a reasonable back and forth, logical disagreement, whatever it may be, immediately smear Venezuela, North Korea, communism. But the best is when they're not smearing, they're actually telling you what you believe and then just scoffing at it and dismissing it. That's my favorite because they don't even realize they're doing our work for us there. Like Fox News has run so many clips and had so many graphics of you know, they say like scary platform for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and then you hear them lay it out like universal health care, universal college, living wage, and they present it and then they just scoff at it. And there's this theory going around. Ryan Grimm floated it from The Intercept. He was like, my theory is that there are millennials who work at Fox News who do the graphics and stuff, and this is a wink and a nod, and they know that it'll get more people to like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Justice Democrats. So they put this out there pretending like it's a negative, but obviously it's positive, because when people hear living wage and free college and end the wars, they're like, that seems pretty reasonable to me. So that's my favorite, is when they accurately tell you what you believe, and then they don't provide a counter-argument. They just scoff and dismiss it. And it's like, okay, well, thank you for doing my work for me. You're laying out these things that at face value alone, it appears like a reasonable thing and the right thing, to push for. So you repeat it and then you scoff at it, and everybody who's watching is going to scratch their head and go, yeah, but hold on, why is that a bad thing? You didn't even explain how it's a bad thing, because they can't do it, because they're not bad things. So, and that's, listen, you guys know I've talked about this many times. I'm populist left. So what that means is populist. So go to the opinion polls. What is popular? Those are going to be the things that we put front and center and we run on. And virtually all these things that they're scoffing at are poll not just over 50%, over 60%. So you want to run those and then scoff at them? Okay, but you're doing our work for us. That's the point. I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez literally said, I want to clip out this Hannity clip of him reading off her platform and just use that as a campaign ad. Because he goes through it and then he's just like, ha! Platform. Look at this. And it's like, yeah, I see it. And it's really good. So, hilarious. I can't. I'm really flabbergasted at the fact that there honestly hasn't been one legitimate response yet to Justice Democrats, our platform, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders. There hasn't been one. Every single time, like I said, it's like a law of nature. It's either Venezuela. I've now seen North Korea brought up twice. Lou Dobbs, this is maybe the first or second time I've seen they don't even really want that. They want communism. So that's another one, just smear, straw man. And then the most honest responses you get are just laying out our platform and then laughing at it. Not providing a counter argument, laying it out going, okay, that's not, like, you need to explain why it is you disagree. Just scoffing, I know in your right-wing bubble that suffices. That doesn't suffice in the real world, son. So it's hilarious. I'm waiting. I'm still waiting to this day to hear a reasonable response. And by the way, I'm willing to entertain it, man. If I see a reasonable response, I will play it for you on the show, and then I will give you my reaction to it. But I just haven't seen it. And I think that's really fucking telling, isn't it? That, when you're presented with this ideology that has over 60% of the American people behind it, and it's just a simple platform that catches us up with the rest of the developed world, that they, even though they're propagandists and they're mired in this stuff and they're up to their eyeballs in it 24/7, they have nothing. They have no response. And it's like, God damn it, you guys got to get better at your jobs. I mean, you would think at least one of them would have something that resembles a coherent reaction, but they just don't.